The turning point, Emeka and Chioma's story. Emeka and Chioma had been married for 5 years. From the outside, they looked like the perfect couple. Beautiful home, 2 lovely children, and a thriving business that Emeka had built from scratch. But behind the smiles and the family photos was a marriage slowly falling apart. Emeka had changed. Success had entered his hands, but pride had entered his heart. He was no longer the humble, loving man Chioma married. Money had made him arrogant, impatient, and dismissive. He saw his wife as a burden rather than a blessing. Whenever Chioma tried to talk to him about their relationship, he would wave her off. "Chioma, please don't start this drama again," he'd say, without even looking up from his phone. Sometimes, when dinner was slightly delayed or the house wasn't perfectly arranged, he would snap. "You're so lazy. You can't even manage this house properly," he'd yell. Chioma would quietly wipe her tears, wondering what had become of the man she fell in love with. At first, she endured it silently, praying and hoping that things would change. But over time, the emotional wounds grew deeper. She felt invisible, like she no longer mattered. The breaking point. One evening, Chioma prepared Emeka's favorite meal, pounded yam and egusi soup. She waited patiently for him to return from work. When he finally came home, he barely greeted her and went straight to the dining table. He took a few bites, frowned, and pushed the plate away. "Is this what you've been doing all day? Even your cooking is getting worse," he said harshly. That night, something in Chioma broke. She stood there, trembling, not with fear, but with courage that had been building up over the years. "Emeka," she said firmly, "why do you treat me like this? I'm your wife, not your servant. I stood by you when you had nothing. I prayed with you, believed in you, and supported you when the business was just an idea. But now that things are good, you act like I don't exist." Emeka chuckled arrogantly. "You're too sensitive, Chioma. You always exaggerate everything." But this time, Chioma didn't walk away. She looked him straight in the eyes and said quietly, "I'm done living like a shadow in my own home. If respect is too much to ask, then maybe it's time I find peace elsewhere." And with that, she walked into the bedroom, leaving Emeka speechless for the first time in years. The wake-up call. That night, Emeka couldn't sleep. Chioma's words echoed in his mind. For years, he had thought he was the strong one, the provider, the leader, the successful husband. But now he realized he had been weak in the most important area of all: love. The next morning, he noticed Chioma wasn't her usual self. She moved quietly, spoke less, and avoided him. The atmosphere in the house had changed. Even the children sensed it. Over the next few weeks, Emeka began to reflect on his actions. He watched as Chioma focused more on herself, reading, praying, and spending time with the children. She had stopped begging for his attention, and that scared him more than anything. One day, Emeka came home early and found Chioma in the living room reading a book on marriage and emotional healing. For the first time in a long while, he felt small. He sat beside her and said softly, "Chioma, I'm sorry." She looked at him, surprised but cautious. "Sorry for what?" "For everything," he replied. "For hurting you, for disrespecting you, for making you feel less than who you are." There was silence. Then tears, not of pain, but of release. The healing process. Change didn't happen overnight, but it began. Emeka started helping around the house, spending more time with the kids, and listening to Chioma's opinions. He enrolled them in marriage counseling, where he learned that respect is the foundation of love. Chioma, though still healing, saw his sincerity. She began to forgive. Slowly, the laughter returned. They started praying together again, something they hadn't done in years. One evening after dinner, Emeka held Chioma's hands and said, "You know, I used to think money was the proof of success. But I was wrong. The real proof is peace in the home. Without you, Chioma, all this means nothing." Chioma smiled for the first time in a long while and replied, "And without respect, love cannot breathe. I just wanted you to see me, not as your helper, but as your partner." The transformation. Months passed. Their relationship grew stronger. Emeka made it a habit to publicly appreciate Chioma, whether at family gatherings or church events. Their children began to notice the warmth between their parents. Their friends were astonished. People who once whispered about their marriage now pointed to them as an example of love restored. Chioma even started a small counseling group for women going through emotional challenges in marriage. Emeka supported her fully, often saying, "If God can change me, he can change anyone." Years later, 10 years later, as they celebrated their 15th wedding anniversary, Emeka stood before family and friends, holding Chioma's hand. With tears in his eyes, he said, "5 years into our marriage, I almost lost this woman because of pride. But today, I stand as a testimony that humility and love can heal anything." To every man listening, success means nothing if your wife is broken. Honor her, respect her, and you'll see true peace. Chioma smiled, squeezing his hand gently. And to every woman, she added, never forget your worth. Stand firm, speak your truth with grace, and never lose faith in what God can restore. The crowd applauded, and the atmosphere was filled with emotion. The moral of the story: respect is not just a word, it's the oxygen that keeps love alive. Marriage is not about who is right or wrong, but about two people willing to grow, forgive, and love again. Emeka and Chioma's journey reminds us that no matter how broken things seem, love can be rebuilt when pride is replaced with humility and blame is replaced with understanding. Their story stands as a testimony that it's never too late to change, never too late to heal, and never too late to love again. And that concludes the story.